the Triple Crown Champ, your non-stop shop for wrestling talk. We're talking shoots v works, rookies v vets, and champs v contenders. I am your host, the Triple Crown Champ. Let's get into it. So, welcome back, and we're here for the second video. This is Wrestlemania Night 2 predictions of wins and losses and how it's going to go. So, again, I tried to leave the best till last, so let's get into it. First match on the card, I believe it will be the first match on the card. I'm not exactly sure of the order, but the way I've got it here, Liv Morgan and Raquel versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Now, I think Bayley and Lyra are lining up for a feud. I think there's little crumbs there that we've been given. If you've seen the last couple of episodes of Raw, and I think Liv and Raquel, there's no sense in having them lose the belt at the moment. Lyra Valkyria is already holding the Intercontinental title, so I don't see her holding both the Intercontinental title and the tag titles. I think Liv and Raquel really work very well as mean girls at the moment. In the female staple, the only other person with heat like that, I would say, is probably Charlotte on SmackDown, and that's an entirely different kind of heat. The heat that Charlotte has is probably heat you don't want. So, yeah, I think as bad girls do it well. You remember that song, right? Yeah, as far as that goes, Liv and Raquel are doing it very well. So I see Liv and Raquel holding on to those titles. I can't see competitors coming to get those titles off of Liv and Raquel anytime soon. I can imagine they're going to have a match with Katana and Chance at some point, but aside from that, I can't really see a tag team of ladies that are going to come for that. PFC are going to contend, they're going to lose, but you know. So yeah, Liv and Raquel to win that one. That brings us to Sin City Street Fight between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. Now, that is a match I'm very much looking forward to. Damian Priest is a wrestler. I think he's very good at what he does. I like what he does, but I'm not necessarily a fan. Whereas Drew McIntyre, I am just in awe of Drew McIntyre. The guy has transformed himself from early Drew McIntyre, who I didn't really like, to this version of Drew McIntyre, who is just the closest thing I have ever seen to Brock Lesnar, and maybe even better. He's billed as more human than Brock Lesnar, but I also like that. So Drew McIntyre to win this one, no. I think Damian Priest wins this one. Damian Priest takes this one of the trajectory of what he's been doing as a fact, and the fact that during the course of this, Drew McIntyre seemingly had Damian Priest's number. He's been laying him out week after week. You only seen one spot where Damian Priest has managed to get some level of revenge on Drew McIntyre and kind of level up the score a little bit. Let's see what happens with Damian Priest after he beats Drew McIntyre, which he will. That brings us on to a fatal four-way between Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, and Dom. Now, this, again, is another match I'm looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to this match because of validation. I want some validation. I think that this is the start of two brand new stories. I think it is the start of Braun Breaker possibly moving towards the world title picture. He has a lineage after being a Steiner, and not just any Steiner. We're talking about Rick Steiner's kid. I mean, Scott Steiner was great, but Rick Steiner was a bigger draw. He was, and he was probably classed as a more complete package as a wrestler than Scott Steiner. I know, take nothing away from Scott Steiner. I lived and grew up more in an era where I saw Scott Steiner wrestle more than I saw Rick Steiner. By the time I fully understood wrestling as it was, Rick Steiner had pretty much retired. I only saw probably the last couple of years of Rick Steiner's career, and didn't really understand the significance of what I was watching. I just knew he was a big star and everyone would bark when he came to the ring. Aside from that, I got to watch Scott Steiner a lot growing up, because he wrestled for a lot longer. So yeah, but I'm well aware that Rick Steiner was probably the biggest star, and held the title. Although they both held world titles, I think when Scott held it, it was more meaningful. Um, I think Braun will retain the title, but I think it starts a story of which Penta will pick up the title off of Braun later. I believe that Braun at WrestleMania will beat Finn Balor for the title. That's who he will pin for the title. Because of that, it will allow Penta an opportunity to challenge because he wasn't the wrestler that got pinned in the match. That's later on. And I think the reason Finn will be pinned will have something to do with Dominic Mysterio. I think that will be the beginning of the implosion of the Judgment Day. I believe this will be the beginning of turning Dom into a face, because I think it's time Dom turns back to a face. I think the amount of heat Dom has had on him for the last year and a half or so, or maybe more, is nothing short of great character work. I think it's a measure and a mark of what he can do in this company, and I think he can only go on to greater things. I think he's really learned his craft and he's really done well, and he seems to be a very good wrestler in the ring. His sells are very good. He never hurts anyone in the ring. He shows up, he does what he needs to do. Consummate professional is Dom. So I think it might be time for a face change for Dom, from heel. I think that will be initiated by my favorite wrestler. It's a torrid time for me, to be honest, to watch Finn Balor go through this. But Finn Balor will invariably do something that's really upsetting and something we as the fans really don't like. And even Dom Dom shouldn't be treated like that. And Dom Dom's going to take his revenge, which that's going to lead to the end of the match where Braun hits Finn with an almighty spear, pins him, and it will be Dom's fault that Finn lost, giving Penta the opportunity to challenge Braun later. Penta will take the Intercontinental title. Um, yeah, and Braun will go into the world title picture. That's my prediction. You guys are free to let me know what you think in the comment section about these predictions, by the way, and these theories. Next up is Logan Paul versus AJ Styles. Okay, so this one's easy. Logan Paul wins. Yeah, here's the thing. There's a lot more going on than what you see on screen or what is directly present in front of you. One of those things is the amount of prime bottles that are beside the ring during Raw, or the other big prime bottles. I mean, there's the little prime bottles on the shelf, and then there's the big, massive prime bottle, and there's the signs. And Logan Paul is going to be a big draw. He is another one of those future stars. He's a great heel as well. He's a great heel. He's incredibly athletic. He works incredibly hard. You can see the change in not just his wrestling ability, but his body, the work he's done, his time off TV, for whatever he's doing, he didn't seem to be slacking off. He was clearly working during that time to become bulkier and to become better in the ring. I understand he has quite a lot of obligations, so therefore some people might get a little bit upset with him because he's not necessarily around as much as the other wrestlers. But I think that will change. I think that will change in the coming. Although I do also think he has certain things, as I said, built into his contract, so he was always going to show up back for WrestleMania. We'll see what happens after WrestleMania, because he's not actually competing for a title, which is interesting. So it does then allow him to go on another hiatus after WrestleMania. But the fact of the matter is, he is a really good wrestler. He has learned his trade very quickly, almost like Dom Dom in that way. He has learned his trade very quickly. He has gotten much better. And I see him as being something as a heel for the future. I mean, there's quite a few wrestlers on the rosters that I think could play that should they stay away from injury, because they're great wrestlers and they have an ability. We love to hate them, but some of them are, at the moment, the hatred for them is more of an annoyance. They're annoying. We just think that like, you're not really, but they perform well in the ring. Another one of those is Grayson Waller, by the way. I think Grayson Waller has great potential as a heel. At the moment, he's playing it as annoying, but I think with time and experience of him evolving as both a grown man and a wrestler, that will change. But yeah, Logan Paul is going to beat AJ Styles. It's old versus new. I don't think the WWE has always respected the caliber of performer that they had in AJ Styles. So for that reason, I think AJ Styles is simply being asked to put Logan Paul over as the future, because of the name that AJ Styles is. They're using the name of AJ Styles to build the reputation of Logan Paul for the future. And that is always, they will not stop talking about that. Every time Logan Paul is in a match after WrestleMania, they will talk about the fact that he beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. And I'm calling that before WrestleMania. Next up, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. Now, I've said that there's one match on this card I cannot call this one. I don't know. From what I can see, all three of these characters make for a great face for the company, and they are also great ambassadors. Children love them, grown men love them. All the fans of the WWE, men, women, child, it doesn't really matter. These are three characters I think everybody generally loves. And they can easily, any one of them, carry the title. I will say, I think Bianca is evolving into something else. So I'm not sure if the world title picture is for her at the moment. At some point, there's invariably going to be a clash between her and Jade Cargill. And we haven't seen Bianca as a heel yet. Something I noticed, I recently rewatched the documentary Rivals, I believe it was, the episode about Stone Cold and Bret Hart. And they alluded to something that came up in the last segment between Bianca, Rhea, and Io. And it was that the fans don't like a wrestler who whines. You see that with Drew McIntyre as well. So once a wrestler, no matter how true the slights that have been done to them are, and their recollection of that, the fans don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear a moaner. They don't want to hear a whinger, a whiner, however you say it in your demographic of peoples. When Bianca did that, there was some kind of jeers and moans in the last segment she did with Rhea and Io. And I thought to myself, is it possible that we will see Bianca as a heel for the first time? Because in NXT, she was a little bit annoying at times, because she's not the Bianca Belair we knew yet. So we didn't know she had all that ability, and she just seemingly had far too much confidence, and she didn't have a good win-loss record. Like, she competed for the NXT title twice and was well beaten. She never actually won that. And then she came up to the main roster and then became the Bianca Belair that we know today. And we love her for it. But the fact of the matter is, we haven't actually seen her as a heel. We have seen her maybe as moderately annoying, but we haven't seen her as a heel. We've seen her as very lovable up until this point. Io has recently gone through a change. So Damage Control started as heels, let's remember. Now, the fact that Damage Control hasn't completely disbanded, there is still, at the very least, Kyrie, I I think Kyrie's still around, but there's still Dakota and Io. Because of that fact, you have to realize that the face change of Io isn't that, it's fairly fresh. It's not that old. And the same goes for Rhea as far as the Judgment Day. So I think we might be watching a Bianca Belair change. In that case, I doubt the title will revert to her. However, she is the one out of the three who hasn't held the title for quite some time. So that also makes it interesting to see what happens there. I honestly cannot call this one. And if I could choose a winner, I couldn't either. For my personal angle, I couldn't either because I love Bianca Belair and I love Io equally. Just love both of those performers, everything about them. So, I mean, as long as one of those two win, I don't dislike Rhea. I just don't like her as much as the other two. So, but there's a place in my heart for Rhea. It's just smaller than the other two, as I said. So I can't pick a winner on this one. I apologize. And so John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Well, John Cena can't leave with the belt. He can't leave with the belt. I think John Cena probably loses here at WrestleMania and then probably beats him for it in a month or two at some lesser event. And as I say that, I realize that event would be SummerSlam. And it's probably highly doubtful that the champ is going to lose the belt at SummerSlam. Well, you never know. But I don't see Cody Rhodes losing the belt at WrestleMania. It doesn't make sense. For all the things that John Cena is saying, the WWE would never let that happen. And you have to remember, John Cena, out of kayfabe, is a complete team player. He's not going to take the belt and walk away. That's a complete kayfabe. And he himself probably wouldn't think that's a good storyline. I don't think he thought it was a good storyline when it happened with CM Punk. I think that storyline is something they worked with. So, yeah, John Cena isn't going to win a belt at WrestleMania. He's definitely not. He may have another match against Cody at the next, so maybe not 2 months, maybe the next pay-per-view after, or PLE rather, after WrestleMania. I think maybe John Cena captures it then, but not a WrestleMania. And I think Kevin Owens has caused problems, because Kevin Owens could have possibly fought for that title again, because I don't think they have anyone at that kind of level of Kevin Owens to put into a storyline to fight for the title along with Cody. They're very limited at this moment in time, because Cody is, I think he's such a big draw, and they have put so much behind the machine of Cody Rhodes being our poster boy for WWE that you need opponents equally as grandiose to contend against him. At the moment, probably the only one is Roman that has that grandiosity. Maybe a little bit of Seth, but again, you have, it's face. You need heels. So I kind of think that is part of the reason why John Cena came in for this. But I don't think he's going to win the title. I think that's it for WrestleMania. If you like the content, please hit the notification, lets you know I'm uploaded next. Hit like, subscribe, comment in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Until then, I've been your Triple Crown champ. I'll see you next time.